Are you ready for the eclectic one? AKA Pat is here.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me. AKA Pat here. Sometimes AKA Pad 69. Yeah, this is like a regular thing that we do now. We just hop on. We call it White Draw and Claw. And this time, unfortunately, I have a traditional Yingling because I thought I had two. I thought I had two more seltzers left, and I don't know. I don't know what happened to them. I think someone stole them out of my Yeti. Oh, total excellence in the house. What are we doing, bud? Total excellence. I know we were chit chatting on the side, but welcome to it, dude. I immensely enjoy your company. So, yeah, I've been waiting for this stream too because I got so many things in my head that I need to get out of my head so I can continue working on Trial by Fire, the most lit Indiegogo to relaunch. Like 1000%. Trial by Fire will relaunch. If you're not familiar with Trial by Fire, look, everyone, I just sat down in like a rapid run to kind of make this show like on time tonight. I don't have any of my material with me, but what we're looking at is a TBF page that I'm going to be noodling away at while our guest comes in. And I'm not going to announce the guest until it happens because sometimes, look, dude, like life happens. Let's throw that banner in there, and things can pop up. And this is a no pressure show for me or for any of my guests that happen to indulge in it. So we will. Here we go. I'm sorry. I'm just going through some of my messages, but yeah. Let's just get started. Let's start chit-chatting. Everyone, tell me how your day has been. If you have any projects that I'm aware of, feel free to update me because, all of your projects, I do my best to keep track of them on the side. But, sometimes forums like this are really good for stuff like that. Because I think together we can make the coolest projects. And we're drawing Pitbull here. And Pitbull literally just got all of his alien skin. Well, not so much alien, but it's alien like because he's a big blue dude and he looks like an alien. So I always call him one. But he just got everything completely blown away here. So it's ligaments. He is down and out, and then Caesar is going to have to send in the team to help him complete the mission. So that's a lot of what I've been battling with Trial by Fire is to kind of get the right positioning for the story. And I think what I came up with for the original Indiegogo release was where I think the story should wrap up. So I struggled a lot to explain things. And I reverse engineered that and essentially decided that maybe like the best idea is to really start from as close to the beginning as possible without losing like the fun parts, like or the interesting parts. Because like here's the thing, action is the best thing to draw, right? Action's the best thing to draw. The worst thing to write is action. It really is. The best thing to write is talking heads, and the worst thing to draw is talking heads. So finding that intersection is, that's one of the most challenging parts of drawing comics, or I will say creating comics. So I wear two separate hats all the time and try to stay true to both. So towards the like when I realized that Trial by Fire just wasn't going to get its own momentum, yeah, and a lot of that's on me. But when I realized that it just like overall, like maybe it didn't have enough interest, like I immediately went back to rethink what like how I was approaching the story. And found, and basically just came to the conclusion that some of it was good, but a lot of it too was too, it just wasn't, it was too sci-fi and not interesting enough. So I took notes. I'm going to be nixing a good chunk of the pages. So there you go. Probably about 30 pages of TBF will not be used. So far, the only pages to be used is this sequence, and the sequence most likely will open the book. If not, these pages will not be used. And that's where we are. But I usually work pretty quickly. I can figure things out on the fly. I can work, across all platforms very quickly. So I'm not really worried. Nice. Yeah. Yeah, Demon Hunter looks really cool. Total excellence. I think I had a conversation with him. I think there might have been 1 or 2 conversations I had on the side with Demon Hunter. But yeah, and look, a lot of this too is almost during the entire campaign of TBF. I was hardly live streaming me working on the book at all. So that's it. Like you gotta accept the L and say the hell with it and move forward. But I think the failed campaign makes TBF a little bit better too. Because if the campaign didn't fail, I think I would be stuck with a story, that wasn't fun to work on or as fun as it should be. And that was a tough revelation. Because as essentially it's like you're the master of your own universe, right? Like, could you imagine working on a story you're not into when you have full control? So that was a nice revelation. But I love the TBF characters through and through. I think they resonate. I think they have a very unique visual. So these are all things I just want to maintain. And time-wise tonight, we're going to target about 45 minutes to 1 hour. So, and I'm just looking for my guy here. My guy is already 2 minutes late. 2 minutes late. Let's see if we get him. And I'm only inking this page right here. This is essentially me getting loose so I can do some sketching. Most people do the opposite. They loosen up to do the pages. I use the pages because, I don't know, I love sketching so much more. You gotta know what you like, kids. Boys and girls. Yeah, it's funny you say that, total excellence. The original projection for, and I think I'm going to detail some of this. It just really depends with my timing for some of my upcoming videos. So the original goal that I had in mind for TBF, I think, was like 750 or 800, and that really would have covered like printing. But the 2000 was the funding for the next book. So I was trying to fund 2 books at one time, because TBF is envisioned to be this 4-part story. I still want it to be this 4-part story, but because I really do think there's revelations and the science fiction angle, and so much of it really does work, and it's really unique. And I think if it's stemming from the 90s, the stuff I'm doing with the science fiction part, really, it just adds to everything that happened in the 90s. I just think it makes a lot of those 90 books better, because, a lot of people, like, kind of have some sour feelings about comics in the 90s, especially if you were a comic shop owner and you were waiting on some of those books. So, here we go. We have our boy. Hello, hello.
Hey, Pete.
What's up, dude? How are you?
I'm just chillaxing, hanging out.
Yeah, very cool. Happy for you to join me. Hey, dude. I just wanted to say too. Thanks for all the support, everything you do. It means a lot.
No problem, man. If it's for the sake of comics, I'll do anything.
Yeah, that's what we like. Yeah. So hey, I think this is like a really good opportunity, because I don't know too much about you. I tried to cyber stalk you a few times, and you're a little bit invisible. But yeah, like, just can you tell me, like, where you live, what you do, if you're comfortable with all that?
Well, I live in the U.S.
That's good. Yeah, bonus.
I'm really into comic books. Probably in an unhealthy amount, you could say.
Unhealthy as in collecting, reading, or just everything?
A little too much of column A and column B.
Yeah. What was your last run? Like, do you go to conventions? Is there conventions in your state?
There's a few. I haven't gone to the last few though, due to all this stuff going on.
Yeah, same. So they just started kind of coming back in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. But my friend and I, like, sometimes we have to drive an hour, 2 hours to get to the ones closer towards New York City.
Right.
And it's just madness. But like, we do what we can, and we both spend like a good chunk of cash, because we try and support all the guys there. So,
right.
But that it's scary. Like, it's scary when there's no collection of dealers and people just kind of like hunting things down, and then everything becomes Facebook groups and eBay.
One of the problems with that is the unfortunate amount of lack of printable trades. Like a few characters or runs or artists, just they will have single issues or whole runs that just will not be collected. So the best way to find it is to just track them down as best you can through eBay or backdoor Amazon, or what's another one? Ghetto Etsy, I guess.
Yeah, no, Etsy, sometimes you can get good deals if people are listing things that they're not fully aware. Or there'll be a lot of comics, and there'll be a like a couple of good keys in there. Even for trades, because a lot of people don't track the trades and what's in print and what's out of print. And it's I go through that now with some of my stuff, because I'll just buy floppies instead of buying a trade, because the trade's like 100 and the floppies are like $10.
It's really ridiculous the way that works out.
Yeah, it never made much sense to me, unless like the trade has something that the regular books don't. like an interview or just like a backup story or just something that, or maybe something that never got reprinted. Like I don't, but there's only a few things that I can think that's even warranted.
There's a few really good interviews in previews from a few years ago, maybe like 10 years ago. And it's just really unfortunate that there's not really anyone who wants to collect that sort of thing. If you happen to be a fan of, say, Art Adams or Graham Morrison or people like that, and those just end up being lost to time.
Yeah, and a lot of times too, when you find a dealer that has those, it's crazy because some of these guys just jack it up. They'll put like a $30 price tag just because something's 20 years old. And it's like, I'm not going to spend that much for like a diamond previews. I'm not like it. And there's no real market for any of it.
It's it's just so strange. It comes from a lack of awareness and just an ignorance about comics and not only just the characters or the stories involved, but the people who have to dedicate their lives to these things that they want to support, and it's just really unfortunate.
Yeah. So what are you supporting now? Like, what's on your buy list?
Currently, just a bunch of old books, or just a few newer ones, or sites that let me read at a subscription price.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That seems where everything's going nowadays, anyway.
Yeah.
Like it's all stuff that's bundled together, kind of, a little bit of a Netflix type thing, where like people just want more value for what they're spending. Yeah, so
it would be better to just go the YouTube route, or like say an app or a website where the author or creator themselves is just a part of it, and you can either support them or through a sublink support the books specifically. So as to say, let's, for example, a few years ago, DC Comics or whatever, they were having a new Doom Patrol run, and I was maintaining to get every single issue, and then all of a sudden, they had started doing some Mags book that was going to be advertised, and I thought, well, okay, I just won't buy that. And then it was seemingly canceled, and then was just put into backup in the Doom Patrol issues.
Oh, wow.
And so throughout my insistence of not wanting to support it, I end up having to do it anyway, which is very unfortunate. If, say, you're a creator or fan who specifically does not like that person, or not even the person themselves, just their work, say Eternity Girl isn't that interesting in what she was doing, even if the artist Sonny Liu was very good, which he was. Charlie Chan Hawk Chai is a very good graphic novel. I discovered that back in a library a few years ago. I use "few years ago" a lot, where it could have been actually like 10. It's just an easy way to go about it. But Sonny Liu had some Dr. Fate run that was kind of down the rabbit hole. I want to track that down someday. Yeah, I think he wrote and drew it, which is it's a better use of his time, I'd say. And let's say he didn't write it. I don't remember, but he did Charlie Chan Hawk Chai. He also seems to be a really big fan of all the stuff that most people who would be into comics would be into, not say superheroes, but the complete, what would you say? The complete, the process of putting it into that. This is the writers and artists' backstories themselves, and the whole process that goes about that. It's not only just about the alien or the robot into a fist fight, but it's also about the deeper meanings and the philosophical tendencies of the backstory behind the people who grew up to then create that very thing. It has a deeper weight to it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That sounds awesome. So you're saying what? Like that is the you discovered that in the library?
It was in some library, and
dude, I love it. That's the best thing, dude. I love it.
It was pretty good. what was it? But yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of Mags's writing or art or whatever you want to call it. So when in the announcement of previews where it was she's getting her own 12-issue maxi, I was like, okay, whatever. I'm not gonna deal with that. And then in the previews after that, I think it was either a physical copy or soliciting online. It was talking about now it's a 6-issue mini. And I thought that was a little strange because I thought, wait a minute, I have it. I have the announcement of the 12 issue, and then the mini, and then it ended up just being a backup, a backup in Doom Patrol, and it kind of turned me off to the whole wanting to collect these characters, which I go to for escapism and deeper insight about Cliff Steele, Rita Farr, Larry Trainer, and Niles Calder, specifically. Gerard Way being I find to be a good writer, but his Doom Patrol run ended up being slightly boring at parts. But after that, it's other contributing factors. I'm simplifying it, but factors like that made me want to kind of dip away from the whole. Maybe I'll get every issue with this favorite character. Say, if you're a big fan of Batman now, it must be a dream come true since every issue or series seems to have something to do with him rather than the greater DC canon narrative.
Right. Yeah. Well, no, it's funny you kind of say that because back in the days when I used to work at the comic shop, I'm talking like early 2000s. We would have customers that would buy like their whole pull list was. Like it would be like Wolverine and whatever bulk Wolverine was like monthly. So it would be like X-Men, this and that. And then there would be like notes on everything that has a Wolverine cover, like everything Wolverine appears in. And these guys would just get these like giant stacks of some of these characters. And sometimes it was like Magneto or Thor. And they would just want like even the merchandise. Like they would just say like whatever previews has a Magneto, order it. Call me, I'll come in and I'll pick it up. And dude, these guys in like a few short years I watched accumulate giant collections because they were literally just spending like paychecks on like some of these characters. And I was always like, I get it, but at the same time I'm kind of like, well, don't you care about the character though? Like what's happening, or are you just buying like a visual? Are you just into like a purple helmet or something? And and I think for a lot of collectors, like that's what they're drawn to.
The I want every issue that had the specifically the Kelly Jones version of Batman.
Yeah,
by Doug Moench specifically, which also narrows it down.
You're right. Yeah, you have the he wrote those vampire ones, right? Those ones are incredible. Like he's still even with his exaggeration, the Kelly Jones ears and cape are two of the best in the entire history of the character.
When you have people come in like that who want to give something to the character that it makes the person go, I can't believe I didn't think I wanted this, but I'm surprised again. DC once again has my money. Something like that always makes the existence of the creator much more enjoyable and rewarding.
Yeah. So are you like, I know you kind of brought up mags, but like I just want to be clear real quick too, because it's not like like you just don't like the writing for mags, which isn't a uncommon thing because like since the beginning of comics, dude, like even within DC Comics there was a movement of professionals that didn't like Jack Kirby, or there was like professionals in Marvel that didn't like Steve Ditko. So I mean, like you don't have to always like everything, like even if they're writing your like favorite character. I just want to be clear on that point.
That's why I brought up the whole Doom Patrol thing, is that I really like that team and every iteration that they come out with, and I enjoy them all for different reasons. But obviously, even if just because it's back to the whole Magneto Wolverine thing, is that, I gotta have every Wolverine appearance. Is it because you like these storylines, or is it because you like only the character? But not to say, I like the brown costume Wolverine, or the specifically the one with him in an eye patch. It's that do you actually like this, or is it just the novelty of collection? Which there's nothing wrong with collecting comics as a novelty form. People do that for trading cards and get even more enjoyment out of that as well.
Or coins, or like, you know, paper airplanes or model ships or anything else, right?
And
like,
right. And even then, when people do that sort of thing, they're not worth. The way to describe it isn't when someone says what's the strange word? When I use the phrase "looking down," it's almost like they look down on people who do that sort of thing. The Pawn Stars or Texas. It's not Texas Roadhouse. It's it's things like that where I have a huge comic book collection. It's like, but are they a real fan though? It's like it doesn't. I would say they are if they go out of their way to spend the money on this, but it is another way of looking at it. But is it because they do that for the sake of the characters and what they love, or they are just a collector? Say someone who goes with gems, like gemstones.
Yeah. Well, see, so like the one thing too is, if you learn about the psychology of collecting and people that build really big collections, a lot of it kind of comes to this idea that these people are creating a world that they have control over.
Right.
And that's really where like a lot of it comes from. And that's something I often repeat. Because I kind of seen a lot of it. I think it's true. Like I would have friends that would buy, you know, like even growing up, they would buy every single like N64 game that came out, regardless of anything. They would spend all of their money, like all of their parents' money, and it'll just be like, don't you want to buy the good games? Like like, you know, like, and it's some of these like very baseline like psychological questions that come into play with this stuff. And like, and even going back to some of that Wolverine stuff, that was back when it was like Wolverine Volume 2, and Greg Rucka was writing this really weird Wolverine story of him being naked in the woods, and he fell in love with a naked Wolverine girl. And and I would talk to this guy about this, and I'd be like, are you reading these books? Because again, working in the comic shop, you kind of read everything. And you know, and he would be like, yeah, well, I'm waiting for it to kind of like get back to normal. Like, you know, I'll wait it out. It was like, I don't think it's getting to normal. This is what they're doing with Wolverine here. Like, he's not going to have the costume on. There's no like, I don't know what you would call this book, because a lot of times, like, I'll baseline characters in very simple ways, because otherwise, just call it something else. Like,
that's true.
You know, yeah. Like if you have the Incredible Hulk, like, not transforming into Bruce Banner, then like make another story, call it another book or something, because that's not the Hulk. That's not why we're, that's like a nod on like the Bruce Jones Incredible Hulk, where I think he wrote 18 issues and he transformed into the Hulk like one time in 18 issues. It's like one of the weirdest runs in Marvel history. But
as far as I remember, it's not Bendis, but I think it's Long Halloween. Jeff Loeb. He worked in television for a long time, and his scripts still retain to be very good when rereading his comics and his various books. And even though he has this television way of going about things, very cinematic, you still get the idea that he still loves the medium in which he's writing. With the Bruce Jones thing in the Hulk, it's that he's writing a movie or show under the pretense that if it were to be adapted, they could only use the Hulk as a special effect and when the money needs to be thrown in. But other than that, it's them doing it at that point rather than entertaining the viewer for the specific medium, because now it's completely different.
Yeah, because you're 100% on, and that was a lot of Marvel's movement back in the early 2000s. Was like everything became almost like a budgeted script, or like a pitch to where, all right, like we'll have enough money to do like 3 action sequences, and that's it. And and then like make trade paperbacks, don't make single issues anymore. Everything needs to be a trade. Yeah, and
that's completely maddening to me. I can't understand that. You have people like Brett Booth and Jim Lee who can clearly still do an amazing action sequence, and the idea that we don't have enough in the budget. The budget is only the imagination of the person and the perseverance of the creator. It has nothing to do with having to I would say someone who has to draw let's say computer animate Godzilla on the screen. That does require quite a bit of money, but the idea that, well, we can't have Wolverine fighting people for 30 pages. We have to have downtime where he talks to Laura Kinney or his girlfriend. And I completely understand that, because you're still telling a story. But the idea that we have to make sure the action sequence only happens every 3 or 4 issues, that's completely nonsense. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it's funny, like you even like brought up Godzilla, because what came to mind is why isn't the greatest Godzilla action sequence in the comic book? Because the things you could draw in the comic, like how it would take Hollywood a century to catch up to. So why isn't this like, why isn't there like a push to really do the most ridiculous action like you can ever imagine in the comic? Because drawing stuff on the page is the same price, because you're paying someone to draw, like it's always the same budget. like it's, I don't know, like, but I think a lot, like everything you're touching on, I think is a lot of the like this broken editorial that like broken editorial that has now completely evaded comics and even a lot of the readership, where like I think people have lost their idea of what makes a really good comic. I think a lot of people have,
I would say, they really have. It's very unfortunate, and I feel like I'm using that word a lot, but it's go ahead.
No, dude, like go, because I like where you're. Yeah, I like seeing a little bit of this side of you, because I think you're touching on a lot of my like the stuff I've been preaching. Like and it really is to the point of like when you sit down and you pay, like now what's it, $5-6 for a single issue?
You just check out at that point, and it's unfortunate because it's still characters I give a shit about. When people talk about when I have conversations about the new Spider-Man movie, I use it's tiresome. It's so tiresome because it's why I say I'll see the movie, but I just don't care. Well, why give your money if you don't care? It's like, well, I still give a shit about this character and his stories and his villains and his supporting cast, and it's just such a I hold out hope because it's something you invest your life and time into.
No, and I love that you have that level of like commitment, because I'm going something similar with my Wildstorm Wednesdays, because like I'm committing all of my energy of getting like the right things at the right time so I can discuss them, and I'm moving like forwards and backwards at the same time. And when I started Wildstorm Wednesday, I had one Wildstorm book because I just purged my entire collection. I threw out couple thousand comics, like easily, like probably about 20-25 long boxes. Okay,
God,
like threw them out, key issues and all, like no remorse. And I just decided to restart. I took like a couple months off and I was like, let me hit this thing like piece by piece. So Wildstorm was one of those things I kind of, it faded away because I was almost like still a senior in high school, or like maybe like a sophomore, but I kind of blacked out. So now I'm like, like let me just get everything I would have got back in high school, and I'm like rediscovering these characters, and I'm like almost like getting emotional when like I find out that Backlash only lasted for 3 years. Like, I'm just like, how this book, or like the whole arc of the Jim Lee Wildcats, which is maybe the most fascinating arc, not storyline wise, just from a publishing standpoint, in all of like early Image Comics. It's incredible. Like what happened with that title. You know, and yeah, dude, like you get drawn, like you connect to these characters because it's, you know, like because you spend time with them and you're like neurologically linked. It's almost like you're dating them, and you don't want to go away.
It's like you grew up with them. Their struggles were your struggles for a time, and in the reverse of that, their process, and it's something I try to incorporate into what I do too, is that what the character goes through is something you don't want them to, but you do. And I know that's very strange to think about, but in order for them to go through this trauma or this occurrence, one of the last Batman runs I entirely collected was all of Scott Snyder's, and I know he has quite the reputation now as being big-brained type who does DC metal, but when he first was doing Batman, it reinvigorated my interest in this, in wanting to collect the whole run. And when he had him go through this sort of thing, I didn't want to see him broken in the mind by the Court of Owls, but at the same time, I still wanted him to get out of this and to keep reading his stories. It was very interesting.
Yeah, you know, and it's funny, like you kind of say that too about Scott Snyder, because when Court of Owls really was hitting, it was just like giant breath of fresh air that, like, it was almost like you had to read it. You had to see what was happening in this book. And it wasn't like a crazy epic. It wasn't a crazy crossover. It was just like comic book with, you know, your arch nemesis being the dynamic opposite storytelling. Nothing fancy, but it was the right time, the right artwork. Like everything was clicking, and you had to read that book. And I think that was the last time everyone I think I knew that read comics was reading Court of Owls. Like it became like, you know, it became a huge thing.
It wasn't just it was a lot of fads back in the day, but the phrase that it wasn't just an interest or a hobby, it was an institution.
Yeah,
you go to the comic book store, you have to be reading. That's how I was with, or at least I was the only guy at the LCS who was reading Wolverine Goes to Hell, and I was telling everyone, you have to get in on this. You have to get in.
Yeah,
this is redefining the character for years to come, and unfortunately, with how Wolverine is now, having died and came back, it's very unfortunate we didn't get a follow-up to that storyline because it was directly going to be foreshadowed in a later time. But secondly, it's like because the creators didn't have anything, or have no interest in doing it because, well, it's pretty old. It's not 90s old, but it was from a time where people now wouldn't have much of an interest in going back to read that. It was a very different culture of Marvel's editorial department creating the issue and the story arc. And so now Wolverine's back, and it seems like they're going in another completely different direction, but not to say another new direction for a character in which it'll redefine him forever, which can get old, but done right, it makes you care more about the character and want to go back and read every issue that led up to that moment to see him change and completely develop, even though this is a character who's existed for 75 years. And in a meta gaming type of way, it's, well, of course he's changed. It's been 75 years, or how has he not changed? He's been written by so many people, and at the end, he always has to be a certain way. But you can do it in such a way that the ramifications will stay with them, but will not be completely obvious unless you've read every issue and had the backstory, felt the guttural punch, the bullet hole close and then reopen.
But no, like it's almost like, look, we got some good people in the chat here. So look, everyone, just listen to how Chris defines a little bit of how like editorial should run, right? Like the editorial should run not really the storyline, but it should run like the art direction and basically what the character does, so that the character can end up in the same spot that he started in, so someone else can pick up another story, not just like continuously always like alter the character, forever changing like things within a 1 year stretch or 2 year stretch, which I feel like they did, because It's like there's no Marvel character now that's like the same when I started reading comics. Like every single one of them either has siblings that never existed, or retcon from the future, exists in an alternate timeline. Like there's none of them. Like there's no Marvel character now that's the same character from when they first appeared when I was younger. Like it's all permanently changed. Yeah.
It's quite the shame due to popular culture has quite the effect on what we all enjoy or think about, but it's another matter entirely to see it where the old fans and the new fans should also feel invigorated. The new Godzilla movies, or even then, some few new comics, very few. Immortal Hulk is great for new fans who have a passing interest in Hulk and want to see him revitalized, but the old fans have something to look forward to as well because it's a new direction they haven't seen the character in for even really decades.
Yeah.
Back to the horror roots.
Right. Yeah, and yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, go.
Oh, no, I was just meaning that. And after that, I don't really think, after this run, I'm not sure how you can do it other than it should have, when it first was starting, and now we're in the heyday, it should keep to the point of, hey, the editorial, this will never happen, but the editorial staff should go, hey, we should probably focus more on doing stuff like this and interpretations of characters that it brings them back to the way they were, but at the same time, it lets everyone know that, hey, we understand what you all want to see, and we're going to get to it in time, but they try to cater to people who do not read comics, and usually that is not the worst thing, because I didn't read comics until who knows how long ago it was now, but after seeing the cover of Batman, I think it was 888 or it was 588, and it made me want to read comics. And it wasn't just completely new. It wasn't Bruce Wayne as Batman. It was Dick Grayson, and he was fighting new villains. And then Two-Face, that was how I was first introduced to Two-Face, and I didn't really know anything about what was going on. Then a new Black Mask came in, and I stuck with him and got back into all of the Batman mythos. When you have that happen, you create a fan who, it was just a complete random chance thing. But when it's just catering to people who don't read comics, and not only doing that, but saying to the people who used to read them, you have no place here, you should leave.
Yeah.
And it really is a matter of, well, they've said that, but I'll stick around anyway, which obviously I still have, because I still want to know. I have an interest in, say, Batman, James Tynion's Batman. I still check in to see what he's doing because it's Gilliam March on the art. How can I say no?
Right, yeah, but no, like, and that's always the 1-2 combo when it comes to comics, that you don't. I think other mediums are not as forgiving, because, like, you can watch a movie because you like Brad Pitt, and like the movie can still be garbage. Like, and you will never watch that movie again. But if you like the writing over the artwork for a comic, you'll buy it every single month. Or if you like the artwork over the writing, you'll make the investment every single time you see that artist. And it's the only medium that is that forgiving. But I think it's also the idea that every month you get something new and something that you deeply enjoy. And I think it's more of a rate than anything Netflix does, anything streaming. I think comics can give you what you like every single month quicker than anything else. But so real quick, so let me ask you, so like, where are you? Like, I know you said like you're reading, like the DC comics and Marvel comics. Do you see like a return to normal? Like, or do you think this is like, because I don't want to say death spiral, but I think it's almost like a creative editorial death spiral. Like, do you see it? Do you see it cycling through again, or are we just going to end up with something completely different as of how they make comics, how we buy them, and everything that goes with that?
I feel as though after this, it's not this year, comics are planned in advance, but uh, right now is not a very good time. I feel as though there should be more books on the stands that it, when you plan something in advance, it happens to where you do it in such a way that, okay, so in a few years' time, we'll have had these many fans and we'll have this arc start up. But
Yeah,
unfortunately, they've have Immortal Hulk, and that's been going on for a while, but they haven't really started any other big names that have lasted after that. They've either been canceled or people have just lost interest because the writers themselves have, and the continuing cycle of writers and artists have changed so drastically. And the whole pencils down to complete veterans, Sean Gordon Murphy and Jason Fadlock, as of recently, who have said, "We're done with the main line for right now. We're going the indie route,"
yeah,
which the indie route is also loaded with talent. But the problem is that some people see Marvel and DC. Well, they still do Marvel and DC, and even Dark Horse as the end cap, the big,
yeah.
the golden, what is it, the leprechaun thing.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
they're chasing the golden goose, or that's the payout. That's the yeah, which is true because like that's where the money, or at one time, that's where the guaranteed money was.
But unfortunately, as we've seen, well, it's not unfortunate because comics are getting better, and the problem with seeing the people differentiating between the people making the books as the celebrity and the comics themselves is the blockbuster movie that they just so happen to be in. It's that I love someone saying I love Kurt Russell, and it's like, so do you love every Kurt Russell movie? Not really. Yeah. Or do you just like those movies that have a great Kurt Russell performance in them?
Right.
Which you can get many variations of that. I really like Greg Capullo, and that's like awesome. Do you love every one of his comics? I sure do. Really? It's like,
which is tough. Yeah, I'm perfectly comfortable saying that even when it comes to an artist, someone like Ed McGuinness, I would even say Greg Capullo, where I think he was a complete genius up until a certain point, and I'm happy kind of like studying his work up to a certain point, honoring it, collecting it, owning it, and just kind of saying after a certain point that, like I'm not that I wouldn't read something good that he was like working on, but I'm not I'm not hunting down his stuff because his like the style changed, or he's not working with good inkers anymore, or like stuff like that, to where I think that's like another thing that comics offer that it's like I think the diehards kind of like kill that idea, which is writers change how well they write, and artists can change how well he draws. So, like, you can't say everything Grant Morrison has ever touched is worth it. It's not. But I think a lot of these guys have runs that are so genius that like I'd rather get those, read them, reread them, than get caught up in like, oh, what are they doing now? Because I'm fine saying, well, I'm not interested. I got their best stuff, so I'm moving on. Like I'm digging up someone else at that point.
And and once that happens, you come to the fact of, well, I'm not really getting the thing I want. And then the ultimate end of that, I would say, is the alternate, or sometimes it happens more often, is that I just want to see this iteration of a character continue. And the problem is that I'm not seeing it. So not only will I go somewhere else for it, and when they do, I can't find it, I will just make my own thing and just enjoy that. And hopefully someone with that same niche or interest in that subject will come to it and also enjoy it, but not as the phrase, well, look how much better I'm doing it than the new people, which I feel like that's a little strange in and of itself. There are still people just trying their best. A bad movie still has confident people working on it who are like, well, hey man, I'm trying my best. And not every person who works on it is deserving of the ire that the director or the head writer got, because there's always a silver lining to something. But yeah, it's making the book or the movie and saying, hey, I did this and hopefully you like it too if you like the same thing. And then that's how it should go, I feel like.
Yeah. So what do you think people are missing? Like when it comes over just like content, like what books should they be reading? What they should like? What should they be hunting down? Like, and you're talking to the people who already know stuff. So, like, who would you tell the veteran people to like hunt down? Like, what storyline, what arc? Like, what are you getting into right now?
Well, right now I'm reading. I'm rereading the old Gene Colan Daredevil Essentials and the Grant
Nice.
Morrison Batmans and the complete John Byrne collection of Doom Patrol. I got the Curse of Spawn, complete black and white, bigger than essential trade. The old Steve Gerber Defenders. Let's see, what else is this? There's this old Junji Ito collection that I want to dive back into. A lot of these I've already reread, but I just don't really. I very rarely will I actually. Last time I went to my LCS, I had bought quite a few dollar Dan Jurgens Brett Breeding Superman issues.
Yeah.
It's trying to at the same time bring the runs back up to date, stockpile my collection, but also enjoy the character in this way of how he has been. Dan Jurgens and Brett Breeding at the time were writing Superman in a way that he was rejuvenized by the Eradicator and was, brought back to life. He's Superman again. He has the mullet, but it was interesting to me that it was a plot point because he was rejuvenated with his power so badly that he is now is too powerful and his powers are working too well and he has to not rely on them for certain effects. He could crush a building just by scraping past it without even touching it. And another effect of Superman of that. But I just say those things because I know you asked me what am I reading at the newest interval, and I gotta say I'm not really reading anything completely new other than old books.
That's kind of like that's really what I was asking, like whatever is like on top of your stack or even just what you recently bought that you were jonesing to flip through or to read, or a lot of times I'll buy things knowing I won't be able to jump in on them until like a couple months down the road because I always have like a really big stack. Like it's just like I try and take stuff off the top as much as possible, but I'll buy something new and be like like I gotta start this right now.
I can only do something like that where I have a few old issues that I am trying to buy recently. The old Uncanny Avengers, which isn't that really old. It's like from 10 years ago or maybe less. Yeah. I'm trying to get those back in. There's an old magazine called Solo that DC did where it was edited by Darwin Cook, I think, and featured certain creators in each issue.
Yeah, that's where I think that did that come from like a Paul Pope like one shot? It was like a Paul Pope solo, and then it became like a series, or Paul Pope was like the first one of those solo books.
I think Paul Pope was the first one.
Yeah, and then I always like the logo for those, like because it's got those cool circles with the different colors.
Yeah.
Yeah, really cool. Like DC, I'll always give DC credit for they always had the cool experiments. They were a little bit more progressive than Marvel, like especially post 80s. On a lot of that stuff, that people kind of overlook now.
Yeah.
But and then is there anything new you're jumping in on?
Currently the new Daredevil series was very enjoyable, but unfortunately I haven't really read that as much, not due to the fact that it's bad. I just haven't had the interest, which is unfortunate that had happened, but it's still going. It's not that I'm going to wait till it's over. It probably will still be a while since that, but it's just gotten to be too expensive. $5 an issue for a new series, and it's no thanks.
There's been times where I went to my local shop, and like again, being a little bit naive, I'll pick up a book and be like, oh, okay, like I'll read this and I'll look at the cover price and just be like, no, because I kind of forget what the prices are sometimes, and I cannot bring myself to like spend that much on something that I'm not sure how much I'll enjoy or not. Like I'll buy a back issue of something I know I like for $20. But it's hard for me to make a new investment on something, and I think that's a lot of what the publishers are missing. Like you gotta have like an entry point at one point. Like you gotta have the stuff needs to be accessible even to the diehards, and I just don't think it is anymore.
It really doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, but all right, dude. Look, I hate to cut this short, but I honest to God, I've ignored my entire chat here from I know I saw you responding to some of them, but I was so wrapped up in talking to you. I think you got some solid position, solid points. Very impressive.
Thank you.
And I was like zoning out a little bit while you were doing your diatribes, because
I don't really mind it so long as you're working on your page. I was also just watching you work on your page.
Yeah, dude, I'm trying to like I'm almost like rebooting my entire Indiegogo.
I heard about that.
Yeah, just because it's just one of those things where I think like I don't like, again, wearing like a publisher hat, I don't think like my pitch and I don't think some of my concepts were entry level enough to where I wanted the story to go. And I think I was picking what I thought was the most interesting part of the story and pushing that and making like the first book about that. So I'm just like, you know what? Let me take it back to formula. I like drawing these characters. I think they have fun designs. But it's just that type of horror story. So who knows?
Right.
But no, but dude, like I really enjoyed like just having you talk, dude. I think it's a home run.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I would definitely like to do this again sometime.
Absolutely.
Cool, but hey, until next time, I guess I will see you on the Twitter.
Absolutely. I will. Right. I mean, I'm still gonna be there.
Yeah. All right, bud. Be safe. I'll talk to you.
You too, man. See ya.
Thanks, man. Cool. All right, everyone. Getting out of here, everyone. Thanks for hanging out. Only 1 hour tonight. Big thank you to Christopher Ryan. Holy crap. I felt like that dude was in my head a lot, maybe too much. He did distract me from finishing this page. I thought I was going to have at least one good hour. I will continue to work on this. Find it on Twitter at AKAPAD. I will post the final version of this. And then, we'll be attacking more, like right here. Like, let me just, I worked on this last week, but new cover for TBF. We got a lot of things happening with TBF. A lot of fun stuff. Really putting some of that 90s image action into TBF before I relaunch everything. So, and we'll have complete pages a part of the campaign this time. Love you, rock and roll people. And until next time, go create.